So with this lesson, we're introducing parallel and perpendicular lines, and we're going to focus on writing an equation for a line which passes through a given point and then is parallel to the given line. Okay, and the second part of this is working with perpendicular lines, but for today's purpose, we are focusing on parallel lines. So just a quick review, anything that is parallel has the same slope. Okay, they won't intercept. They go on and on forever in both directions, and all vertical lines that are parallel will have different y-intercepts, and so that's going to be something that we need to figure out. But if I know the slope of one line, I know the slope of the other parallel line. So knowing that information, we'll take a look here, write the slope-intercept form of an equation that goes through the point -1, -2, and then is parallel to -3x minus 2. So in this case, we know m, it's going to be -3. I have a point -1, 2, and I can use that information to find what the y-intercept is. So I go ahead and I'll substitute in x, or y. So I have -2 equals, again I'm going to use -3 for my m, -3 times -1 plus b. So at this point I can go through and solve for b, and then I'm ready to finish up the problem. -3 times -1 gives me 4 plus b. To move the 4 over, I need to subtract 4, and we end up with -6 equals b. So at this point I know my y-intercept, I know my slope. I can go ahead and put it into the form y equals mx plus b, relatively easy. Y equals -3x, in this case we're going to say -6. On this slide, my slope, as I look at this, again I'm trying to do the same thing as I did on the last one, is 1/4. I have a point here. I'm going to go ahead, come back to slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and put in what we know, substitute in -1. We have -1 equals 1/4. Our x is 4 plus b. This will simplify to -1 equals 1 plus b. Subtract 1, -2 equals b. Can go ahead and substitute in. I know my y-intercept, I know my slope, and so I have all the information I need to write it into y equals 1/4 x minus 2. If for some reason I needed to write this in point-slope form using the point given, I could just go y minus -1, so y plus 1, equals x, excuse me, I need to put m in, 1/4 x minus 4. And so that's a point-slope form if I needed it, and I also have the slope-intercept form. Go ahead and try this one on your own, see what you come up with. Be a good idea to hit pause and check your work here in a second. I'll go ahead and solve it. So my slope is 4. I'm going to use 6 equals 4 times 1 plus b to figure out my new intercept. 6 equals 4 plus b. Subtract 4, 2 equals b. So my equation would be y equals 4x plus 2. And again, if for some reason they wanted this into point-slope form, I'd just go y minus 1 equals 4 times x minus 1. Pardon me, I should have had y minus 6. hopefully check your work, see how you... And just one more example for you to try. This one, we are not in slope-intercept form to begin with, so that makes this a little bit more challenging. I need to take this and put it into slope-intercept form so that I have my slope. So in that case, I need to go ahead and set it up and solve for y. So 3x plus 8y equals 4. I can subtract 3x from both sides, and I get 8y equals negative 3x plus 4. Divide by 8, and I need to divide everything on the other side by 8, and we get y equals negative 3/8 x plus 1/2. So now I have my slope right there, and I can go ahead and use that and the point that we're given here to write the line that's parallel to that. So this one requires a little bit more work. So we have 4 equals negative 3/8 times 0 plus b. 0 times negative 3/8 is simply 0, so 4 equals 0 plus b, or 4 equals b. Then we can go ahead and write our final answer. Y equals our slope, negative 3/8, x, and our y-intercept is 4. So there we go. Okay, so we need to solve for y in this one. Again, I'd suggest you work on this on your own and then check your work to see how you did at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for y by subtracting x from both sides. And we get negative 5y equals negative x plus 7. You can go ahead and divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5. Here I want to pay attention to my signs. So those will cancel and leave me with y. I have a negative divided by a negative, so I have a positive 1/5 x. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the 7/5 as a fraction for the y-intercept. So at this point, I need to use my slope, I need to use my points, and then I can put this into slope-intercept form. First I need to find the y-intercept, so we'll go ahead and go 3 equals 1/5 times 2 plus b. 3 equals 1/5 times 2 ends up being 2/5 plus b. Here we need to subtract 2/5 from both numbers. 3 minus 2/5 is going to give us 2 3/5, and that's going to be our slope-intercept. So now with my slope-intercept and my slope, I can go ahead and write my final answer, and we're going to get y equals 1/5 x plus, and I'm going to go ahead and leave this as 2 3/5. We might see different forms of that. If I change this to an improper fraction, I might see this point written as 13/5. But again, either form would be okay. So that's working with parallel lines.